Admiral Zexathera stood frozen at the command center of the massive alien warship called Eternal Supremacy. Her 6 eyes stared at the glowing screen in front of her, and she could not believe what she was seeing. The display showed a small dot that should not exist. The dot represented a human ship, and it was sitting quietly just 12,000 kilometers away from her fleet. The Admiral's purple skin turned a darker shade as fear crept through her body. She had been patrolling this area of space for over 20 cycles, and nothing had ever surprised her like this. The Vegan Dominion controlled this region with iron fists, and their sensor technology was the best in the known galaxy. Yet somehow a primitive human vessel had gotten close enough to touch them without being detected. Captain Jake Morrison walked slowly across the bridge of his ship, the USS Liberty. His brown hair was cut short in military style, and his blue eyes showed the calm confidence of a man who knew his job well. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. They had been drifting in space for 3 whole days, completely silent and invisible to the alien fleet that surrounded them. The Liberty was not a large ship by galactic standards. It measured only 200 meters from nose to tail, making it look like a tiny fish next to the 3-kilometer length of the alien command vessel. But size did not matter when you knew how to stay hidden. The human ship had slipped through the alien defenses like a ghost in the night. Chief Engineer Lisa Yang sat at her control station, watching the green lights that showed their stealth systems were working perfectly. She was a small woman with black hair tied back in a tight ponytail, and her hands moved across the controls with practiced skill. For the past week, she had been nursing their experimental hiding technology, making sure every circuit stayed cool and every signal stayed quiet. The stealth system was her own design, built from ideas that the aliens would never think to use. While other species in the galaxy relied on exotic matter and quantum tunneling to hide their ships, Lisa had taken a different approach. She used simple electromagnetic fields and gravitational shadows, things so basic that advanced civilizations had forgotten they existed. Navigation Officer Tony Rodriguez checked his screens and smiled slightly. The young man with dark skin and careful eyes had plotted their course using nothing but gravity wells and magnetic fields. Instead of following the normal space lanes that alien ships used, he had guided the Liberty through the empty spaces between stars, using natural forces to mask their movement. Tony had studied the alien patrol patterns for months before this mission. He learned that the Vegan Dominion expected their enemies to move like they did, using bright energy signatures and faster-than-light jumps that lit up sensors from light years away. The aliens were so focused on watching for advanced technology that they had stopped looking for simple solutions. On the alien command ship, warning lights began flashing red across every console. The sensor operators scrambled to understand what they were seeing. A vegan officer with gray skin and 4 arms typed frantically at his station, trying to get a clear reading on the mysterious contact that had appeared from nowhere. The officer's name was Sub-Commander Thexanol, and he had been operating sensor equipment for 15 cycles. Never in all that time had anything surprised him like this. The human ship showed up on their screens like it had just materialized out of empty space, even though their records showed it had been sitting there for days. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the Dominion's chief science officer, hurried to her analysis station. She was tall even by vegan standards, with pale blue skin and silver markings that showed her high rank. Her job was to study enemy technology and find weaknesses, but the readings from the human ship made no sense at all. According to her instruments, the human vessel was using technology that should not work. It had no quantum drives, no exotic matter reactors, and no crystalline matrix computers. Instead, it seemed to run on controlled nuclear fusion and simple magnetic fields, technologies so primitive that most species abandoned them after their first few centuries in space. Captain Morrison received a quiet report from his communications officer. "Sir, they have spotted us," said Officer Danny Park, a young man with Asian features and steady hands. "Multiple weapons are locking onto our position." Morrison nodded calmly, showing no sign of worry or fear. The captain had expected this moment to come. The real question was not how they had gotten this close to the alien fleet without being detected. The question was what they would do now that the element of surprise was gone. Morrison had volunteered for this mission knowing it might be a one-way trip, but he believed in what they were trying to accomplish. Commander Alex Turner stood at the tactical station, watching the alien ships move into attack positions. He was a tall man with red hair and green eyes, and his job was to handle the Liberty's weapons if fighting became necessary. But their mission was not to start a war with the galactic powers. They had come here to prove that humans deserved a place among the stars. The crew of the Liberty represented the best that Earth had to offer. They were not the strongest or the smartest people on their planet, but they were brave enough to take risks and clever enough to find new solutions to old problems. Each of them had volunteered for this mission knowing they might never see home again. Engineer Lisa Yang made final adjustments to their power systems, preparing for whatever came next. She had designed the Liberty's engines to run on resources that could be found anywhere in space, using hydrogen from gas giants and energy from stellar radiation. While alien ships needed rare materials and complex supply chains, the Liberty could keep flying as long as there were stars in the sky. Admiral Zexathera finally found her voice and began shouting orders to her fleet. 47 alien warships moved into formation around the tiny human vessel, their weapons charged and ready to fire. The Admiral could not understand how these primitive creatures had managed to penetrate the most secure border in known space, but she was determined to capture them and learn their secrets. The standoff had begun, and neither side knew how it would end. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stared at her analysis screens with growing confusion and fear. The readings from the human ship made absolutely no sense according to everything she knew about space travel and technology. For the past 2 hours, she had been running scan after scan on the mysterious vessel, and each result only made the puzzle more impossible to solve. The Vegan science officer had spent her entire life studying the technologies that made interstellar civilization possible. Every spacefaring species in the galaxy used the same basic principles to travel between stars, fight wars, and build their societies. They all needed exotic matter to fold space for faster-than-light travel. They all required crystalline matrix computers to handle the complex calculations needed for navigation. They all used quantum tunneling drives and zero-point energy reactors to power their massive ships. But the human ship called Liberty used none of these things. According to her sensors, it ran on controlled fusion reactions, the same technology that primitive species used to heat their cities and power their ground vehicles. The ship's computer systems appeared to be built from organic neural networks instead of quantum processors. Most shocking of all, it seemed to achieve faster-than-light travel through gravitational wave manipulation, a theoretical concept that most scientists considered impossible to implement. Elena's assistant, a young Vegan named Colthex, brought her another set of readings. "Doctor, I have completed the electromagnetic spectrum analysis," he said nervously. "The human ship is not emitting any of the standard energy signatures we use to track vessels in space." Elena took the datapad and studied the information, her confusion growing deeper with each line of text. According to the scans, the Liberty was almost invisible to their detection systems because it did not use the technologies their sensors were designed to find. It was like trying to track a wooden sailing ship with radar equipment designed to detect nuclear submarines. The human vessel simply did not register on instruments that looked for quantum field fluctuations and exotic matter emissions. Captain Morrison stood calmly on his bridge, watching the alien fleet position themselves around his ship. He could see the confusion and fear in their movements, and he understood why they were struggling to comprehend what they were seeing. Humans had approached the problem of space travel from a completely different direction than the rest of galactic civilization, while other species had built bigger and more complex technologies over millions of years. Humans had arrived late to the game and been forced to find simpler solutions. Earth scientists could not compete with aliens who had been refining their technologies for eons, so they had chosen to innovate instead of imitate. Engineer Lisa Yang monitored her systems with quiet satisfaction. The stealth technology that kept them hidden from alien sensors had been inspired by her grandfather's work on submarine design during Earth's ancient wars. Instead of trying to become invisible, she had focused on becoming undetectable to the specific sensors that aliens used. The key insight had come from studying captured alien technology. Lisa discovered that advanced galactic civilizations had become so dependent on exotic energy signatures that they had forgotten how to look for conventional ones. Their sensors were like eyes that could see ultraviolet and infrared light, but had gone blind to normal visible spectrum. Lisa's modifications to the Liberty's drive system used this weakness against them. The ship generated almost no exotic matter emissions because it did not use exotic matter. It produced minimal quantum field disturbances because its computers were biological rather than quantum. It left no gravitational wake because it rode existing gravitational currents instead of creating new ones. Navigation Officer Tony Rodriguez made small adjustments to their position, using microthrusters to drift slowly closer to the gas giant that dominated this solar system. The Liberty's unique design allowed it to draw power from natural electromagnetic phenomena, something that the energy-hungry alien ships could not do without massive modifications to their systems. Tony had spent months studying the physics of space travel, looking for ways to move efficiently through the universe without leaving obvious trails. He discovered that space was not empty but filled with invisible currents of gravity, magnetism, and stellar radiation. A clever navigator could use these natural forces like a sailor uses wind and tide. The young officer had plotted their approach to this system by following gravitational streams that flowed between the gas giant and its 17 moons. The Liberty had ridden these invisible rivers for weeks, using only tiny amounts of fuel to make course corrections, while the natural forces did most of the work. Dr. Elena Rodriguez compiled her preliminary report for Admiral Zexithara, but she knew the Admiral would not believe what she had discovered. The human ship represented a complete paradigm shift in technological thinking. Instead of using more advanced materials and energy sources, they had found ways to do more with less. The implications were staggering. If humans could build effective warships using such simple technology, what would they be capable of in 10 years when they had time to refine their designs? What about in 100 years when they had learned to combine their innovations with galactic knowledge? The thought made Elena's skin turn pale with worry. Commander Alex Turner ran diagnostics on the Liberty's weapon systems, while keeping one eye on the alien fleet. The humans had not come here to fight, but they were prepared to defend themselves if necessary. Their weapons were as unconventional as the rest of their technology, and Turner knew they would surprise any enemy who underestimated them. Instead of using exotic particle beams or quantum disruptors like most galactic warships, the Liberty mounted kinetic accelerators that fired dense metal projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The weapons were based on principles that humans had been using for thousands of years, but scaled up to work in space combat. The beauty of kinetic weapons was their simplicity and effectiveness. Alien shields were designed to deflect energy weapons and exotic matter attacks, but they were less effective against solid objects moving at extreme velocities. A tungsten rod moving at 30% of light speed carried enough kinetic energy to crack open a battleship's hull. Communications Officer Danny Park intercepted transmissions between the alien ships and decoded their language using the Liberty's translation systems. The aliens were discussing humans as if they were an established galactic threat, not realizing that Earth had only achieved faster-than-light travel 18 months ago. Danny found it amusing that the aliens were so worried about a species they knew almost nothing about. Their intelligence files on humans were embarrassingly outdated, based on radio transmissions from decades ago when Earth was still using chemical rockets to reach orbit. They had no idea how quickly human technology had advanced once they put their minds to solving the problem of interstellar travel. The translation systems themselves demonstrated human innovation. Instead of using quantum computational matrices like alien civilizations, human computers used neural networks modeled after biological brains. These organic processors were less powerful than quantum systems, but far more adaptable and creative in finding solutions to unexpected problems. Chief Medical Officer Karen White monitored the crew's health from her station in the ship's medical bay. Unlike other species that required extensive life support systems and artificial gravity to survive in space, humans had proven remarkably adaptable to the challenges of space travel. Through careful preparation and biological resilience, the crew remained in perfect physical condition despite months away from Earth. They maintained their health through regular exercise, proper nutrition, and medical treatments that used the human body's natural healing abilities rather than exotic alien technologies. Karen took pride in proving that humans could thrive in space without needing the complex support systems that other species required. Admiral Zexithara received Dr. Elena Rodriguez's report and read it 3 times before accepting what it said. The human ship was not just unusual, it was revolutionary. Everything about its design challenged fundamental assumptions about how space technology should work. The Admiral faced a decision that would affect the entire galaxy. Should she attack the human ship and try to capture its technology for the Vegan Dominion, or should she attempt to communicate with these strange creatures who had found such different solutions to the problems of space travel? Either choice would change everything, and Zexathara was not sure she was ready for the consequences. Fleet Commander Veltagan emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, his massive dreadnought universe render cutting through space like a knife through silk. The arrival of the 3-kilometer warship sent shockwaves through space itself, creating ripples that every sensor in the system could detect. Behind him followed 12 more vessels of the Vegan Dominion's most elite squadron, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything humans had ever built. The fleet commander had received Admiral Zexthara's emergency transmission while conducting training exercises 3 star systems away. The message had been brief but alarming. A human warship had somehow penetrated the most secure border in Vegan space and was now sitting within striking distance of their command fleet. Veltagan had responded immediately, bringing enough firepower to level a small planet. As the universe render approached the inner system, Veltagan studied the tactical display with growing amazement. The human ship was tiny compared to his vessels, barely large enough to qualify as a frigate by galactic standards. Yet somehow this insignificant vessel had managed to slip past dozens of sensor stations, patrol ships, and automated defense platforms without being detected. Captain Jake Morrison watched the new arrivals through the Liberty's viewports, counting the massive alien warships as they took positions around his small vessel. The combined Vegan fleet now numbered 47 ships of various classes, all of them focused on the single human intruder that had dared to enter their territory uninvited. Morrison felt no fear as he observed the overwhelming display of alien firepower. He had volunteered for this mission knowing the risks, and his crew had trained for months to prepare for exactly this situation. They were outnumbered and outgunned by any conventional measure, but conventional measures did not apply to what they were trying to accomplish. The captain activated his ship's communication systems and authorized limited contact protocols. It was time to let the aliens know that humans had not come here as conquerors or thieves, but as potential partners in the vast community of galactic civilization. The first words spoken between humans and aliens would shape the future of both species. Communications Officer Danny Park worked quickly to establish a translation link with the alien fleet. The Liberty's computer systems had been studying Vegan transmissions for months, learning their language and communication protocols from intercepted signals. Danny was confident that his translation programs could handle basic conversations, though complex negotiations might require more time to perfect. The young officer had grown up in a family of linguists and had always been fascinated by the challenge of communication across cultural barriers. Working with alien languages presented unique difficulties because their thought patterns and social structures were so different from human ones. But Danny believed that all intelligent species shared certain basic concepts that could serve as bridges between worlds. When Morrison's image appeared on the screens of the Vegan command ships, the alien officers were shocked by what they saw. The human captain looked remarkably young by galactic standards, appearing to be barely past adolescence according to their understanding of biological development. His crew seemed to operate with casual efficiency, rather than the rigid military protocols that most spacefaring species required. Admiral Zexthara studied the human captain's face, trying to read the intentions behind his calm expression. She had commanded fleets for over 30 cycles and fought against dozens of different species, but she had never encountered beings quite like these humans. They showed no signs of fear or submission despite being vastly outnumbered, yet they also displayed no aggressive posturing or territorial challenges. Navigator Tony Rodriguez made subtle adjustments to the Liberty's position, using micro-thrusters to drift slowly closer to the gas giant's powerful magnetic field. The movement was so gradual that the alien sensors barely registered it as intentional maneuvering, but Tony knew exactly what he was doing. The Liberty's unique design allowed it to draw power from natural electromagnetic phenomena, something the energy-hungry alien ships could never duplicate without massive modifications. The young navigator had spent years studying celestial mechanics and gravitational physics, searching for ways to move efficiently through space without relying on exotic matter or quantum tunneling drives. He had discovered that the universe was filled with invisible currents of energy that a clever pilot could use to supplement their ship's conventional propulsion systems. Tony's approach to navigation was like sailing on an ocean of gravity and magnetism, using stellar winds and tidal forces to carry his ship where it needed to go. The alien vessels, with their massive energy requirements and complex support systems, were like motorboats trying to cross the same ocean by brute force alone. Dr. Elena Rodriguez continued her analysis of human technology from her station aboard the Eternal Supremacy, and each new discovery made her more amazed and worried. The humans had achieved interstellar capability through innovation rather than raw power, finding elegant solutions to problems that other species solved through increasingly complex technologies. The human ship's power systems were a perfect example of this different approach. Instead of using zero-point energy taps or antimatter reactors like advanced civilizations, the Liberty ran on controlled fusion reactions that consumed simple hydrogen fuel. The technology was thousands of years old by galactic standards, but the humans had refined it to incredible efficiency levels. What made the fusion reactors truly remarkable was their fuel source. The Liberty could refuel anywhere in space by scooping hydrogen from gas giant atmospheres or stellar wind streams. Alien ships required rare exotic matter that could only be produced in specialized facilities, making them dependent on complex supply chains and manufacturing infrastructure. Engineer Lisa Yang monitored the Liberty's stealth systems while keeping one eye on the alien fleet movements. She had designed the ship's concealment technology based on principles that the aliens had forgotten in their rush toward ever more advanced solutions. Instead of trying to become completely invisible, she had focused on becoming undetectable to the specific sensors that galactic civilizations used. Lisa's background in submarine warfare had proven invaluable when designing stealth systems for space combat. She understood that hiding was not about becoming invisible, but about avoiding the detection methods that enemies were likely to use. The aliens were so focused on watching for exotic energy signatures that they had become blind to conventional ones. The stealth technology used simple electromagnetic fields to bend radio waves around the ship's hull, creating dead zones in sensor coverage. It employed gravitational lensing to redirect light and heat signatures away from potential observers. Most importantly, it operated on power levels so low that alien sensors dismissed the emissions as background radiation. Chief Medical Officer Karen White reported that the crew remained in perfect health, despite months of space travel in conditions that would challenge most galactic species. Humans had proven remarkably adaptable to the space environment through careful preparation and biological resilience, requiring far less life support technology than other intelligent beings. The crew maintained their physical fitness through exercise routines designed for zero-gravity environments. They sustained their mental health through social activities and recreational pursuits that humans had developed over thousands of years of close-quarters living. Most importantly, they preserved their sense of purpose through clear mission objectives and strong bonds of loyalty to each other. Fleet Commander Veltagen opened a communication channel to the human vessel, his deep voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to commanding respect across the galaxy. "Human ship, you have violated the sovereign territory of the Vegan Dominion," he said through the translation systems. "Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded for inspection." Captain Morrison responded with calm dignity, his voice steady and clear despite the overwhelming odds against him. "Fleet Commander, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Liberty. We have not come as invaders or enemies, but as representatives of humanity seeking peaceful contact with galactic civilization. We request the opportunity for diplomatic discussion." The human captain's response surprised the alien commanders. Most species that encountered the Vegan Dominion for the first time either fled in terror or attacked in desperation. Very few had the confidence to request negotiations from a position of apparent weakness. Yet Morrison spoke as if he held cards that the aliens could not see. Commander Alex Turner prepared the Liberty's defensive systems while hoping they would not be needed. The ship's weapons were unconventional by galactic standards, but highly effective against the types of targets they were likely to face. Turner knew that their survival depended not on winning a direct fight, but on convincing the aliens that attacking would be more costly than talking. The tactical officer had studied alien fleet formations and weapon systems for months, looking for weaknesses that human technology could exploit. He had discovered that most galactic warships were designed to fight enemies that used similar technologies, leaving them vulnerable to unconventional attacks they had never considered. As the HFY emergency sessions convened across the known galaxy, as news of the human incursion spread through diplomatic channels like wildfire, on the crystalline towers of Andromeda Prime, the collective's ruling council gathered in their great chamber, their translucent forms flickering with agitation as they discussed this unprecedented development. In the orbital cities around Centauri Major, Federation admirals argued loudly about military responses while their politicians worried about economic implications. Ambassador Krelox of the Vegan Dominion found himself facing the most uncomfortable questions of his long diplomatic career. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called within hours of the Liberty's detection, and every major species wanted to know how a previously unknown civilization had managed to penetrate the most secure border in known space. The ambassador stood before the great assembly hall, his purple skin darkening with embarrassment as he tried to explain the impossible situation. Honored representatives, he began, the humans were dismissed as a pre-spaceflight species based on our most recent intelligence assessments. Their radio transmissions suggested a chaotic, divided world with primitive chemical rocket technology, barely capable of reaching their own moon. Council Speaker Zephyros, an ancient being whose species had been exploring space for over 1,000,000 years, leaned forward with obvious displeasure. Ambassador Krelox, are you telling this council that your intelligence services failed to notice an entire species achieving faster-than-light capability? How does a civilization go from chemical rockets to interstellar warships without anyone detecting the transition? The question hung in the air like a physical weight, and Krelox struggled to find an answer that would not destroy his career. The truth was that the Vegan Dominion, like most galactic powers, had stopped paying attention to primitive species once they determined they posed no immediate threat. The galaxy contained thousands of worlds with developing civilizations, and monitoring all of them was considered a waste of resources. Captain Morrison opened a direct communication channel to the Vegan fleet commander, his calm voice cutting through the tension that filled the space around them. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Liberty, he said, knowing that his words were being recorded and transmitted across the galaxy. We come seeking dialogue, not conflict. Humanity wishes to join the community of spacefaring civilizations as partners, not conquerors. The captain's message was translated by the Liberty's advanced AI systems, sophisticated programs built from human neural networks rather than the quantum computational matrices that other species used. The translation software had been designed by Earth's best linguists and computer scientists, working together to create something that could bridge the gap between human and alien minds. Morrison chose his words carefully, knowing that everything he said would be analyzed by alien intelligence services for hidden meanings and threats. He wanted to project strength without aggression, confidence without arrogance. The future relationship between humanity and galactic civilization might depend on the impressions formed in these first crucial conversations. Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked frantically at her analysis station, trying to understand the full implications of what she was discovering about human technology. Each new scan revealed another impossibility, another way that these newcomers had found different solutions to the fundamental challenges of space travel and warfare. The human ship's computer systems were perhaps the most fascinating puzzle of all. Instead of using quantum processors that operated in multiple dimensions simultaneously, the humans had built their AI from networks that mimicked biological brains. The organic computers were slower than quantum systems in raw processing power, but they showed remarkable creativity and adaptability in solving unexpected problems. Elena had spent decades studying artificial intelligence, and she thought she understood the limits of what was possible with different computational approaches. But the human AI systems seemed to think in ways that quantum computers could not duplicate, finding novel solutions through intuition and pattern recognition rather than brute force calculation. The economic implications of human technology sent shockwaves through galactic markets as the news spread. On the trading floors of Rigel Station, commodity prices fluctuated wildly as investors tried to understand what human innovations might mean for established industries. Exotic matter futures dropped sharply while basic metal prices surged as speculators bet on new manufacturing paradigms. Financial analyst Kexandra watched the market, chaos from her office high above the Rigel system's primary star. She had built her fortune by predicting technological shifts that would disrupt existing economic patterns, and the human situation looked like the biggest opportunity in centuries. If human designs proved scalable, they could destabilize the resource-based economy that had dominated galactic civilization for millions of years. The current galactic economy depended on complex supply chains that moved rare materials across thousands of light years to specialized manufacturing centers. Exotic matter, quantum crystals, and zero-point energy cells could only be produced in facilities that cost more than most planetary budgets. But human technology seemed to work with common materials that could be found in any star system. Navigation Officer Tony Rodriguez continued making subtle adjustments to the Liberty's position, drifting closer to optimal tactical locations while appearing to move randomly. His movements were so gradual and natural-looking that the alien sensors interpreted them as normal station-keeping, rather than deliberate maneuvering. Tony had studied the gravitational mechanics of this solar system for weeks before their arrival, mapping invisible currents of force that flowed between planets and moons. The Liberty could ride these gravitational streams like a surfer riding ocean waves, using minimal fuel to achieve precise positioning while conventional ships burned enormous amounts of energy to maintain their formations. The young navigator understood that space was not empty, but filled with fields and forces that a clever pilot could exploit. Magnetic fields generated by planetary cores, gravitational eddies created by orbital mechanics, and solar wind patterns all provided opportunities for efficient movement if you knew how to read them. Communications Officer Danny Park intercepted diplomatic transmissions between the various alien fleets as they coordinated their response to the human presence. The messages revealed deep disagreements about how to handle first contact with a species that had achieved spaceflight through such unconventional means. Some alien factions wanted to capture the human ship and reverse engineer its technology before other species could gain access to it. Others argued for immediate diplomatic contact to establish trade relationships and technology exchanges. A few extremist groups called for the destruction of the human vessel to prevent their innovations from disrupting galactic stability. Danny found it fascinating that the aliens were more worried about human technology than human intentions. They seemed to assume that any species capable of such innovations must have military applications in mind, not considering that humans might genuinely want peaceful cooperation with galactic civilization. Chief Medical Officer Karen White monitored the crew's stress levels as the tension of first contact continued to build. Despite being surrounded by overwhelming alien firepower, the human crew remained calm and focused on their mission objectives. Their training and preparation had prepared them for exactly this situation. Karen had worked with military psychologists to develop stress management techniques, specifically designed for first contact scenarios. The crew practiced meditation, breathing exercises, and mental conditioning that helped them maintain clear thinking under extreme pressure. Most importantly, they had trained together as a team until they could function as a single coordinated unit. The medical officer also monitored the biological effects of prolonged space travel on human physiology. Unlike most galactic species that required artificial gravity and extensive life support systems, humans had proven remarkably adaptable to zero-gravity environments through careful exercise and nutrition programs. Fleet Commander Veltigan received updated intelligence reports from his ship's analysis team, and each new piece of information made the situation more complex. The human vessel showed no signs of conventional weapon systems, yet his tactical officers warned that it might be capable of attacks they could not predict or defend against. The fleet commander had fought against dozens of different species during his military career, but he had never encountered an enemy that used such fundamentally different approaches to space combat. His ships were designed to fight opponents who used similar technologies and tactics, leaving them potentially vulnerable to attacks they had never considered. Veltigan faced a decision that could affect the balance of power across the entire galaxy. Should he attempt to capture the human ship and claim its technology for the Vegan Dominion? Or should he try to negotiate a peaceful solution that might benefit everyone but would also allow other species to gain access to human innovations. Admiral Zexthera compiled her reports for the Dominion High Command, knowing that her superiors would struggle to believe what she was telling them. The humans had accomplished something that intelligence reports flooded into galactic capitals as analysts across known space tried to understand the implications of human technology. In the data centers, beneath the ice sheets of Crystalline 7, Andromedan computers processed millions of scenario models, each one showing potential futures where human innovations disrupted established power structures. The results were so alarming that the collective's leadership imposed information security protocols, normally reserved for war planning. Director Zyle Pathon of the Galactic Intelligence Consortium found himself staring at classified reports that challenged everything he thought he knew about technological development. His analysts had been working around the clock since the first news of the human incursion reached their headquarters, and their conclusions were both fascinating and terrifying. The humans had not simply found new ways to solve old problems. They had approached the fundamental challenges of space travel from completely different philosophical perspectives. While galactic civilization had spent millions of years making their technologies more complex and powerful, humans had focused on making them more efficient and adaptable. Dr. Elena Rodriguez made breakthrough discoveries every hour as she continued, analyzing the Liberty's hull composition and internal systems. The human ship was built primarily from refined metals and carbon composites, materials so common that most species use them only for basic structural elements. Yet the humans had arranged these ordinary materials in extraordinary ways that created unexpected properties. The ship's hull was not just armor, but a complex system that channeled electromagnetic fields, distributed kinetic impacts, and even generated small amounts of electrical power from cosmic radiation. Every component served multiple purposes, and the entire vessel was designed with redundancy that allowed it to function even if large sections were damaged or destroyed. Elena discovered that human engineering philosophy emphasized adaptation over specialization. Where alien ships were built for specific roles and environments, the Liberty was designed to handle whatever situations it might encounter. This flexibility came at the cost of maximum efficiency in any single role, but it provided advantages that more specialized designs could never match. Commander Alex Turner demonstrated the Liberty's unconventional weapon systems by targeting a small asteroid that drifted through the outer system. The human weapons officer had been waiting for an opportunity to show the alien fleet what his ship was capable of, and the demonstration would send a clear message about human capabilities. Turner's fingers moved across his control panels with practiced precision as he lined up the shot. The Liberty's main weapons were kinetic accelerators that fired dense tungsten projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The technology was based on principles that humans had been using for thousands of years, but scaled up to work effectively in space combat. The tungsten rod streaked through space faster than most alien sensors could track, striking the asteroid with kinetic energy equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. The rocky body exploded in a brilliant flash of superheated debris, creating a miniature star that lit up the darkness for several seconds before fading back to empty space. The alien fleet watched the demonstration with growing alarm as their tactical computers calculated the implications. Their energy shields were designed to deflect exotic particle beams and quantum disruptors, but they offered limited protection against solid objects moving at relativistic velocities. A projectile moving at 30% of light speed could punch through the hull of a battleship like a needle through paper. Economic analysis teams across the galaxy worked frantically to model the potential market disruptions that human technology might cause. The implications were staggering enough to threaten the stability of civilizations that had built their entire economies around scarce resources and complex manufacturing processes. Financial strategist Mex Coral reviewed preliminary projections from her office aboard Trade Station Alpha, the massive commercial hub that orbited the neutron star at the galaxy's economic center. Her computers had been running economic simulations for days, and every model showed the same disturbing trends. Human technology did not require rare minerals, exotic matter, or specialized manufacturing facilities that could only be built with enormous investments of time and resources. If their designs proved scalable and reproducible, it could collapse markets that had remained stable for millions of years while creating entirely new industries around previously worthless materials. The current galactic economy was built on scarcity and complexity. Exotic matter could only be harvested from the cores of dying stars using equipment that cost more than most planetary defense budgets. Quantum crystals grew naturally in only a few dozen star systems, making them valuable enough to fight wars over. Zero-point energy cells required manufacturing processes so complex that only the most advanced civilizations could produce them. Captain Morrison authorized a comprehensive data package transmission to the assembled alien fleets, demonstrating human willingness to share knowledge and establish peaceful relationships. The transmission contained basic information about human technology, culture, and peaceful intentions, along with detailed specifications for some of their simpler innovations. The captain knew that sharing technological secrets with potential enemies was risky, but he believed that transparency was essential for building trust between species. Humans had not come to the galaxy as conquerors seeking to dominate other civilizations, but as newcomers hoping to find their place among the community of spacefaring species. Morrison's decision to share information freely surprised many alien observers who expected humans to guard their technological advantages jealously. Most species that achieved interstellar capability became extremely protective of their innovations, knowing that technological superiority often determined survival in the competitive galactic environment. Engineer Lisa Yang began broadcasting detailed technical specifications for the Liberty's power systems, environmental controls, and propulsion technology. She explained her design philosophy through the translation systems, describing how human engineers approached problems differently than their galactic counterparts. Lisa's presentations fascinated alien scientists and engineers who had spent their careers working with increasingly complex technologies. She demonstrated how humans achieved remarkable efficiency by understanding the fundamental principles behind their equipment, rather than simply building bigger and more powerful systems. The human approach to problem-solving emphasized creativity and adaptation over brute force solutions. When faced with technical challenges, human engineers looked for elegant ways to work with natural forces rather than trying to overpower them through advanced technology. This philosophy had led to innovations that accomplished more with less, while remaining robust and maintainable. Navigation Officer Tony Rodriguez shared his knowledge of gravitational navigation techniques with alien fleet commanders who were amazed by his unconventional approach to space travel. Most galactic species used brute force methods to move through space, burning enormous amounts of exotic fuel to achieve precise positioning and course corrections. Tony explained how humans had learned to read the invisible currents of gravity and magnetism that flowed throughout every star system, using these natural forces to supplement their conventional propulsion systems. A skilled navigator could reduce fuel consumption by 90%, while achieving better precision than ships that relied entirely on powered flight. The young officer demonstrated his techniques by guiding the Liberty through a complex series of maneuvers using only minimal thruster burns and careful gravitational navigation. The alien observers watched in amazement as the human ship danced through space with grace and efficiency that their massive vessels could never duplicate. Communications Officer Danny Park worked with alien linguists to establish better translation protocols between human and galactic languages. The initial communication systems had been adequate for basic conversations, but more sophisticated discussions required deeper understanding of cultural concepts and thought patterns. Danny discovered that humans thought about many concepts in fundamentally different ways than most galactic species. Ideas about cooperation, individual rights, and technological development that seemed obvious to humans were alien concepts to civilizations that had evolved under different conditions with different survival pressures. The communication challenges went beyond simple language differences to encompass completely different ways of understanding reality. Humans approached problems with flexibility and creativity that other species found difficult to comprehend, while aliens relied on rigid protocols and established procedures that humans considered unnecessarily limiting. Chief Medical Officer Karen White shared information about human biology and adaptation capabilities with alien medical researchers who were fascinated by human resilience and versatility. Most galactic species had evolved to thrive in specific, environmental conditions, and required extensive technological support to survive in different situations. Humans appeared to be remarkably adaptable creatures who could function effectively. Engineer Lisa Yang began broadcasting comprehensive technical specifications to the alien fleet, her calm voice carrying detailed explanations of human engineering principles through the translation systems. She had volunteered to share humanity's most closely guarded secrets because she believed that cooperation was more valuable than competition in the vast emptiness of space. The alien engineers who received Lisa's transmissions struggled to comprehend designs that appeared impossibly simple, yet functionally superior to their own solutions. For millions of years, galactic civilization had equated technological advancement with increasing complexity, building systems that required exotic materials and specialized knowledge to operate and maintain. Lisa's approach was completely different. She designed systems that could be understood and repaired by anyone with basic technical knowledge, using materials that could be found in any star system. Her fusion reactors were marvels of elegant engineering that achieved incredible efficiency through careful understanding of fundamental physics rather than brute force. Applications of advanced technology. Sub-engineer. Colmatrix of the Vegan vessel. Eternal Supremacy found himself questioning everything he had learned during his 40 cycles of technical training. The human specifications that Lisa transmitted showed reactor designs that produced more power per unit of fuel than anything in the Vegan fleet. Yet they used principles that his instructors had dismissed as obsolete primitive. Technology, the human fusion, systems operated at temperatures and pressures that conventional wisdom said were impossible to maintain without exotic matter containment fields. But the humans had found ways to use magnetic confinement and plasma dynamics that achieved the same results with common materials and simple control. Systems. Captain Morrison's crew operated with a flexibility that astounded their alien observers when Chief Science Officer Mike Thompson needed to recalibrate the ship's sensors to penetrate the electromagnetic interference created by the gas giant's radiation belts. He didn't consult massive technical manuals or request assistance from automated computer systems. Instead, Mike simply understood the underlying principles well enough to make real-time adjustments based on current conditions. He modified sensor arrays, rerouted power systems, and reconfigured data processing algorithms, all while explaining his actions to fascinated alien scientists who watched through communication links. The human approach to problem-solving emphasized understanding over memorization, creativity over rigid procedures, where alien technicians followed detailed protocols developed over thousands of years. Human engineers adapted their methods to fit whatever situation they encountered. Admiral Zexthera found herself in an unprecedented situation as she watched the human demonstration unfold. Her fleet possessed overwhelming superior firepower and could easily destroy the tiny human vessel, but doing so would eliminate the most significant technological discovery in galactic history. At the same time, allowing the humans to continue sharing their innovations could destabilize the balance of power that had maintained peace between species for centuries. The Admiral had built her career on decisive action and clear strategic thinking, but the human situation presented complexities that military doctrine had never addressed. Every decision carried enormous implications not just for the Vegan Dominion but for the entire structure of galactic civilization. Zexthara's tactical advisors were deeply divided on the appropriate response. Some argued for immediate capture of the human ship and its crew to secure exclusive access to their technologies. Others warned that hostile actions could provoke a wider conflict if humans proved to have military capabilities beyond what they had revealed. Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked frantically to compile her observations about human cognitive capabilities as she watched their crew solve technical problems in real time. The humans demonstrated mental flexibility and creative thinking that most species required sophisticated artificial intelligence systems to achieve. Human brains appeared to process information differently than other intelligent species, combining logical analysis with intuitive leaps that produced innovative solutions to complex problems. Their minds could hold multiple contradictory ideas simultaneously, while working toward synthesis and resolution through creative synthesis. Elena realized that human technological advantages stemmed not just from different engineering approaches but from fundamentally different ways of thinking about problems. Where most species approached challenges through systematic analysis and established procedures, humans combined multiple approaches simultaneously to find novel solutions. Communications. Officer Danny Park established direct technical exchanges with alien communication specialists who were amazed by human language processing capabilities. The Liberty's translation systems operated with speed and accuracy. That surprised species who had been developing linguistic technologies for millions of years. Human translation software used neural networks that mimicked biological thought processes, rather than quantum computers that processed information through mathematical calculations. This organic approach allowed the systems to understand context, emotion, and cultural subtleties that purely logical systems often missed. Danny explained how human languages had evolved to handle ambiguity and multiple meanings through context and intuition rather than rigid grammatical structures. This flexibility made human communication systems more adaptable to new situations and better able to bridge differences between species with completely different thought patterns. Navigation. Officer Tony Rodriguez demonstrated advanced gravitational navigation techniques that alien pilots had never considered possible. Most galactic species used massive amounts of energy to force their ships through space along predetermined courses, fighting against natural forces rather than working with them. Tony showed how skilled human navigators could read gravitational currents, magnetic field variations, and stellar wind patterns to achieve precise positioning with minimal fuel consumption. His techniques required intuitive understanding of complex physical relationships that most alien pilots relied on computers to calculate. The young officer guided the Liberty through a series of intricate maneuvers that showcased human piloting skills while staying within the boundaries of the alien fleet formation. Each movement demonstrated perfect control and understanding of how natural forces could be used to supplement conventional propulsion systems. Fleet Commander Veltagan watched the human demonstrations with growing concern about the implications for galactic military doctrine. His ships were designed to overpower enemies through superior firepower and advanced technology, but the humans had proven that unconventional approaches could neutralize traditional advantages. The human vessel showed no signs of exotic weapon systems or defensive shields, yet Veltagan's tactical computers warned that it might be capable of attacks that his fleet could not predict or counter effectively. Traditional military thinking assumed that technological superiority would determine victory, but humans had already proven that assumption wrong. The fleet commander faced strategic decisions that could affect the balance of power across known space. Should he attempt to capture human technology for exclusive use by the Vegan Dominion, or should he try to establish cooperative relationships that might benefit everyone, while ensuring that other species also gained access to human innovations? Chief Medical Officer Karen White shared detailed information about human biological adaptation capabilities with alien medical researchers who had never encountered a species so remarkably versatile. Most intelligent life forms had evolved to thrive in specific environmental conditions and required extensive technological support to survive in different situations. Humans appeared to be uniquely adaptable creatures who could function effectively in almost any environment through biological flexibility, technological innovation, and social cooperation. Their medical systems emphasized prevention and natural healing rather than exotic treatments that required rare materials or complex equipment. Karen demonstrated human exercise and nutrition programs that maintained crew health during extended space missions without artificial gravity or sophisticated life support systems. She explained how human biology had evolved to handle stress, radiation, and other hazards through natural resilience rather than technological protection. The alien medical teams were particularly fascinated by human psychological adaptation capabilities. Most species suffered severe mental health problems during long space voyages, requiring complex social structures and artificial environments to maintain crew stability. Humans seemed to thrive on challenges and found ways to maintain morale through simple social activities and shared purpose. Engineer Lisa Yang worked directly with Dr. Elena Rodriguez to establish technical compatibility protocols between human and alien systems. The collaboration between human intuitive engineering and vegan systematic analysis produced innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. Lisa's willingness to share technical secrets with potential enemies surprised many alien observers who expected humans to guard their advantages jealously. She explained that human cooperation had evolved as a survival strategy beyond their crowded home planet, where success depended on working together rather than competing for first contact protocols activated across the galaxy as species that had never encountered humans scrambled to establish communication and diplomatic relationships. The fastest ships from dozens of civilizations raced toward the border system, where the Liberty maintained its peaceful standoff with the Vegan fleet, each carrying ambassadors and scientists eager to make contact with the revolutionary newcomers. The Andromedan Collective dispatched their most advanced exploration vessel, a crystalline ship that could travel faster than any other known technology by phasing partially out of normal space. Ambassador Sil Matrix had been chosen to represent the collective because of her expertise in xenological studies and her reputation for finding peaceful solutions to complex diplomatic problems. Sil Matrix studied human transmissions during her 3-day journey to the contact zone, trying to understand the psychology and culture of these remarkable beings who had achieved such unexpected technological breakthroughs. The more she learned about human society, the more fascinated she became with their unique approach to cooperation and innovation. The Centauri Federation began analyzing decades of ignored human radio transmissions, searching for clues about human intentions and capabilities that their intelligence services had overlooked. Director Paul Theron of the Federation's Xenological Department found himself explaining to angry superiors why his agency had dismissed humans as irrelevant primitives, instead of recognizing them as potential partners or threats. The old radio signals revealed a species that was chaotic and divided yet capable of remarkable achievements when they focused their efforts on common goals. Human society seemed to thrive on controlled conflict and competition that somehow produced innovation and progress rather than self-destruction. Captain Morrison received authorization from Earth Command to begin formal diplomatic negotiations, marking humanity's first official entry into galactic politics. The transmission from home had taken weeks to reach the Liberty through their experimental communication arrays, but it carried the full authority of Earth's united governments to speak for their species. Morrison felt the weight of responsibility as he prepared to negotiate on behalf of all humanity. Every decision he made would affect the future relationship between humans and the vast community of galactic civilizations. He understood that he was not just a ship captain anymore, but humanity's first ambassador to the stars. The captain had been chosen for this mission not just because of his technical skills, but because of his ability to think clearly under pressure and find creative solutions to impossible problems. Earth's leaders had realized that first contact would require someone who could adapt to unexpected situations rather than simply following predetermined protocols. Communications Officer Danny Park worked with alien linguists to establish comprehensive translation protocols that could handle complex diplomatic discussions. The initial communication systems had been adequate for technical exchanges, but formal negotiations required precise understanding of legal concepts, cultural values, and political implications. Danny discovered that many human concepts had no equivalent in alien languages. While alien political structures were based on assumptions that humans found difficult to understand, the translation challenges went far beyond simple vocabulary, differences to encompass completely different ways of organizing society and making collective decisions. The young officer developed innovative linguistic bridges that allowed both sides to communicate complex ideas, despite their different conceptual frameworks. His work became the foundation for all future diplomatic contact between humans and galactic civilization. Dr. Elena Rodriguez published her preliminary findings about human technology in the Galactic Science Journal, sparking a revolution in scientific thinking across known space. Her paper challenged fundamental assumptions about technological development that had guided research for millions of years. Elena's research proved that innovation mattered more than raw computational power or access to exotic resources. Human achievements demonstrated that creative problem-solving could find elegant solutions to challenges that other species had. Attacked through brute force applications of advanced technology, the publication caused heated debates in research institutions across the galaxy, as scientists argued about the implications of human discoveries. Some argued that galactic civilization should immediately adopt human techniques, while others warned that abandoning established technologies could destabilize the complex systems that supported interstellar society. Navigator Tony Rodriguez plotted jump coordinates that would take the Liberty to neutral space for formal diplomatic meetings, demonstrating human faster-than-light capabilities to the assembled alien fleets. The human jump drive operated on principles that most species had considered theoretically impossible to implement with available technology. Instead of using exotic matter to fold space or quantum tunneling to bypass normal physics, the human drive manipulated gravitational waves to create corridors of compressed spacetime. The technique required precise understanding of relativistic mechanics but could be implemented with materials and energy sources available in any star system. Tony's navigation through hyperspace amazed alien observers who had never seen such efficient use of natural forces for interstellar travel. Most species required massive amounts of exotic fuel and complex calculations to achieve faster-than-light travel. But humans had found ways to ride the invisible currents that flowed throughout the galaxy. Ambassador Krelox of the Vegan Dominion found himself in the unprecedented position of conducting first-contact negotiations with a species that already possessed technological capabilities superior to his own civilization. Traditional diplomatic protocols assumed that newly contacted species would be primitive civilizations, seeking guidance and protection from established galactic powers. The human situation was completely different. They had achieved interstellar travel independently and demonstrated innovations that could revolutionize galactic civilization. Instead of seeking protection, they were offering partnership and cooperation as equals in the community of spacefaring species. Krelox struggled to adapt diplomatic frameworks designed for dealing with primitive cultures to the reality of negotiating with technological equals who had different approaches to solving fundamental problems. Every assumption about first contact had been proven wrong by these remarkable humans. Fleet Commander Veltagen received new orders from the Vegan High Command, instructing him to protect the human vessel at all costs, while preventing other species from gaining exclusive access to human technology. The military situation had evolved from a potential threat to a valuable asset that needed to be secured for the benefit of all galactic civilization. The fleet commander found himself in the unusual position of providing security for beings who had already proven they could penetrate his defenses without being detected. His massive fleet was now protecting a ship that could probably escape whenever it chose to do so. Veltagen began developing new tactical doctrines based on human innovations, imagining how their techniques could be integrated with conventional military technologies. The combination of human creativity with alien computational power could produce military capabilities that no single species could achieve alone. Chief Medical Officer Karen White established medical exchange programs with alien physicians who were fascinated by human biological resilience and adaptation capabilities. Most galactic species had evolved to thrive in specific environmental conditions and required extensive medical support to survive in different situations. Human biology appeared to be remarkably robust and adaptable, capable of functioning effectively in environments that would quickly kill most alien species. Human medical techniques emphasized prevention and natural healing, rather than exotic treatments that required rare materials or complex technology. Karen's medical data provided insights into human psychology and social organization that helped alien diplomats understand how human society functioned. The collaborative approach that humans used for medical care reflected broader cultural values that emphasized cooperation and mutual support. Engineer Lisa Yang worked with alien technical teams to develop hybrid technologies that combined human innovation with galactic manufacturing capabilities. The joint engineering projects produced systems that were more efficient and adaptable than either species could create independently. Lisa's willingness to share technical secrets with potential competitors demonstrated human commitment to cooperation over competition. She explained that human survival had always depended on working together to overcome challenges that no individual could handle alone. The collaborative engineering sessions became models for future cooperation between species, showing how different approaches to problem-solving could complement each other to produce better results than any single civilization could achieve through isolated development. Captain Morrison proposed a comprehensive cultural and technological exchange program that would allow humans to learn about galactic civilization while sharing their own innovations with established species. The proposal represented a fundamental shift from. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to address what historians would later call the human question. As representatives from hundreds of species gathered in the Great Assembly Chamber that orbited the galaxy's central black hole, the massive crystalline structure had been built to accommodate every form of intelligent life, with environmental zones for gas breathers, energy beings, and silicon-based cultures that required extreme temperatures to survive. Council Speaker Zephyros called the session to order with grave ceremony, his ancient voice carrying the weight of 1,000,000 years of galactic history. The agenda contained only one item, but it was the most significant issue the Council had faced since the Great Consolidation that had ended the last major war between spacefaring civilizations. Ambassador Krelox presented his report on human capabilities with careful precision, knowing that his words would shape policy decisions affecting the entire galaxy. He described the technological demonstrations he had witnessed, the peaceful intentions that humans had expressed, and the revolutionary implications of their innovations for established galactic civilization. The vegan ambassador argued for immediate integration of human technology into existing galactic frameworks, proposing joint research projects and technology sharing, agreements that would benefit all species while preventing any single civilization from gaining exclusive access to human innovations. Other representatives demanded more cautious approaches to avoid economic collapse and social disruption. The Rigel Consortium's trade minister warned that rapid adoption of human technologies could destabilize markets that had remained stable for millions of years, potentially causing economic chaos that could destroy civilizations dependent on established resource networks. The Andromedan Collective's scientific representative argued that human innovations offered opportunities to break free from technological stagnation that had limited galactic progress for centuries. She proposed ambitious research programs that would combine human creativity with alien computational power to solve problems that no single species could address alone. Captain Morrison received formal authorization from Earth command to negotiate preliminary treaties, establishing humanity's place in galactic civilization. The message had traveled across dozens of star systems using the experimental communication networks that connected human colonies, carrying the hopes and fears of an entire species taking its first steps among the stars. Morrison understood that he was no longer just representing his ship or his crew, but speaking for all of humanity in discussions that would determine their species' future. The weight of responsibility was enormous, but he felt confident that humans could contribute something valuable to the vast community of galactic civilizations. The captain had spent weeks studying alien cultures and political systems, trying to understand how different species organized their societies and made collective decisions. He discovered that most galactic civilizations were far more rigid and hierarchical than human society, with established procedures that left little room for innovation or adaptation. Economic implications became clear as human-designed systems proved not only effective but incredibly cost-efficient to produce and maintain. Traditional galactic industries built around exotic matter processing and quantum manufacturing faced potential obsolescence, while new opportunities emerged in adaptive engineering and biological integration technologies. Financial analyst Kex Andra published market projections that sent shockwaves through galactic economic centers, predicting fundamental changes in resource values and manufacturing processes. Her models showed that human innovations could reduce the cost of space travel by 90% while making interstellar civilization accessible to species that had previously been excluded by technological barriers. The economic revolution threatened established power structures based on control of rare resources and complex manufacturing capabilities. Species that had built their wealth on monopolies over exotic matter or quantum crystal production faced the possibility that their advantages would become worthless overnight. At the same time, the new paradigm offered opportunities for civilizations that had been relegated to minor roles in galactic politics because they lacked access to advanced technologies. Human innovations could level the playing field by making effective space travel and communication possible with resources available in any star system. Dr. Elena Rodriguez compiled her final report on human technological capabilities, documenting innovations that challenged every assumption about how advanced civilizations should develop. Her research became required reading in universities across the galaxy as scientists struggled to understand the implications of human achievements. Elena's work proved that technological advancement did not necessarily require increasing complexity or exotic resources. Human success demonstrated that understanding fundamental principles and applying them creatively could produce better results than brute force applications of advanced technology. The scientific revolution, sparked by human innovations, led to breakthroughs in fields that had been stagnant for millions of years. Researchers began questioning established approaches to energy generation, space travel, and artificial intelligence, looking for ways to combine human techniques with their own technological capabilities. 6 months later, the Liberty returned to Earth as the flagship of humanity's first official interstellar fleet. The ship that had once panicked a galactic empire now led a squadron of vessels carrying diplomats, scientists, and traders eager to establish formal relationships with alien civilizations. Captain Morrison stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed orbital shipyard above Earth, watching human and alien engineers work together on joint projects that would have been impossible for either species to accomplish alone. The collaboration represented everything he had hoped to achieve when he volunteered for the first contact mission. The Liberty had been upgraded with hybrid technologies that combined human innovation with alien computational power and manufacturing precision. The improvements made it more capable than ever while maintaining the elegant simplicity that had allowed it to surprise the galactic powers in the first place. Human colonies throughout nearby star systems celebrated as news of successful diplomatic contact reached them through the communication networks that connected Earth's growing interstellar civilization. The colonies had been established by volunteers, willing to risk everything for the chance to build new societies among the stars. The successful first contact mission validated the courage and sacrifice of the colonists who had left Earth knowing they might never see home again. Their willingness to take risks and explore unknown territories had given humanity the foundation it needed to become a significant force in galactic civilization. Navigation Officer Tony Rodriguez had been promoted to head the new Interstellar Navigation Academy, where human and alien students learned to pilot ships using techniques that combined the best aspects of both technological approaches. His gravitational navigation methods became standard curriculum for pilots throughout the galaxy. Engineer Lisa Yang led joint research teams developing hybrid technologies that incorporated human efficiency with alien computational power and exotic materials. Her collaborative approach to engineering became a model for cooperation between species with different technological traditions. Chief Medical Officer Karen White established the Galactic Medical Exchange, facilitating cooperation between human and alien physicians working to develop treatments that could help all species. Her work on biological adaptation helped other civilizations understand how different species could thrive in environments that had previously been considered uninhabitable. Communications. Officer Danny Park created the Universal Translation Protocol, a system that allowed effective communication between species with completely different languages and thought patterns. His linguistic innovations became the foundation for diplomatic and commercial relationships throughout the galaxy. The Vagan Dominion's initial panic had given way to cautious respect, then genuine collaboration as they discovered that human innovations could enhance their own capabilities rather than replacing them. Admiral Zexathera became a strong advocate for human integration into galactic military structures. Fleet Commander Veltagon developed new tactical doctrines that incorporated human techniques with conventional alien technologies, creating military capabilities that were more effective and efficient than either species could achieve alone. His work helped establish humans as valuable allies rather than potential threats. Dr. Elena Rodriguez accepted a position as Director of Comparative Technology Studies at the Galactic Science Institute, where she continued researching how different species approached fundamental problems. Her work helped identify innovative solutions that had been overlooked by civilizations focused on conventional approaches. The galaxy would never be the same after humans proved that advanced technology was not about complexity or exotic resources, but about understanding principles and applying them creatively. The most powerful weapon in the human arsenal had not been superior firepower or defensive capabilities, but the simple ability to look at impossible problems and find practical solutions.